ओके, सो आज हम लोग जावा के बारे में पढ़ेंगे। कैसे जावा वर्क करता है, कैसे जावा फाइल से हम लोग इसको रन करते हैं, कोड कैसे रन होता है। ओके, सो हम लोग के पास 6 फेस होता है कोड रन होने के लिए, फेस 1 टू फेस 6। फेस 1 में क्या होता है हमारा, ये कंपाइल टाइम होता है। ओके, कंपाइल, देखिए कंपाइल टाइम। ओके, यहाँ पे हमारे पास सोर्स कोड होता है जो कि होता है डॉट जावा के फॉर्म में। ओके, देन वी हैव अ जावा कंपाइलर जो कि वो इसको एक पोर्टेबल फॉर्मेट में कन्वर्ट करता है। ओके, बिकॉज वी नीड पोर्टेबल फॉर्मेट। ओके, ये कौन सा पोर्टेबल फॉर्मेट कन्वर्ट करता है, ये होता है हमारे पास बाइट कोड। ये बाइट कोड में कन्वर्ट करता है विच इज़ डॉट क्लास फाइल। ओके, नाउ फेस 1 ख़त्म, अब हमारे पास आ गया फेस 2। ओके, so what happened in phase 2, we have JVM। so यहाँ से हमारा JVM स्टार्टअप होता है। ओके, ये OS बाउंड्री है, यहाँ से ये हमारा OS का काम स्टार्ट होता है, JVM स्टार्टअप होता है। ये फेज़ 2 है। फेज़ 2 में हमारे पास क्लास लोड होता है। क्या होता है? क्लास लोडिंग। यहाँ पे हमारे पास हम लोग क्लास लोडर यूज़ करते हैं। क्यों? वाई? बिकॉज वी वांट टू load lazily to save memory। okay, after that we will use इसके बाद भी जाता है JVM मेमोरी के अंदर, इनसाइड JVM मेमोरी। यहाँ पे क्या होता है हमारे पास, तो यहाँ पे हमारे पास मेमोरी एलोकेट होता है। फेज़ 3 में क्या होता है हमारे पास, मेमोरी एलोकेटर। तो यहाँ पे हमारे पास 3 मेमोरी एलोकेट होता है। फर्स्ट इज मेटा स्पेस, सेकेंड इज JVM स्टैक्स एंड थर्ड इज हीप। मेटा स्पेस में क्या होता है, ये स्टोर करता है क्लास का ब्लूप्रिंट, स्टोर्स द क्लास ब्लूप्रिंट। JVM स्टैक क्या करता है हमारा, ये करता है, ये क्रिएट करता है फ्रेम फॉर मेन मेथड। ओके, क्रिएट्स अ फ्रेम फॉर दी मेन मेथड। हीप हमारा क्या करता है, ये वेट करता है, इट वेट फॉर वेटिंग फॉर ऑब्जेक्ट्स टू बी क्रिएटेड। ओके, सो फेज़ 3 फेज़ ख़त्म हो गया हमारा, फेज़ 1, फेज़ 2, फेज़ 3। आफ्टर दैट वी विल गो टू फेज़ 4। ओके, सो इन फेज़ 4 क्या होता है हमारे पास, एग्जीक्यूशन होता है। फेज़ 4, यहाँ पे हमारे पास एग्जीक्यूशन होता है। ओके, हमारे पास एग्जीक्यूशन इंजन होते हैं कुछ, एग्जीक्यूशन इंजन होते हैं, जैसे कि इंटरप्रेटर, सेकेंड इज जिट कंपाइलर। ओके, इंटरप्रेटर क्या होता है, दिस विल स्टार्ट इमीडिएटली। ओके, it will, what it will do, it will read the byte code, reads byte code। ओके, और जिट कंपाइलर क्या होता है, ये वॉच करता है हॉट कोड के लिए। ओके, वॉचेस फॉर हॉट कोड, ये बताएंगे आगे क्या होता है हॉट कोड, और उसको टर्न करता है मशीन कोड में, टर्न्स टू मशीन कोड। ओके, नाउ वी हैव फेज़ 5। phase 5 is for cleanup. phase 5 में क्या होता है हमारे पास, एक गार्बेज कलेक्टर होता है हमारे पास, गार्बेज कलेक्टर. वाई वी यूज़ गार्बेज कलेक्टर, बिकॉज हीप फुल हो जाता है हमारा एग्जीक्यूशन के बाद. ओके, बिकॉज हीप गेट फुल. वाई द हीप gets full from execution. Now last phase is what? phase 6. ये हमारा क्या होता है, जावा मेमोरी मॉडल विच इज़ JMM. ये क्या करता है, now we have CPUs which has multiple cores. Okay, so why we use it, because we have to sync memory of multiple cores of the CPU. Okay, multiple CPU cores need to sync memory. Okay, now मैं अच्छा से समझाता हूँ इसको क्या होता है, हम लोग क्यों सबको यूज़ करते हैं. So in 1990s we have C++. If we write something in C on Windows, so we have to again recompile it entirely on like Mac or Linux. So what happens, Sun Microsystem created a Java which promised like write once, run anywhere. Vora. To do this, they couldn't compile to Windows machine code or Mac machine code. So they had to invent a fake universal machine language which is called bytecode. Okay, this one. So what is that? The Java compiler checks for our syntax, check out your syntax and translate your Java code into .class file. Okay, this is filled with bytecode. Okay, but it doesn't do any optimization. Okay, in phase 2 we have now class file, but we have to in our hard drive we have class file in our hard drive, but code on hard drive can't execute, so it needs to be brought into RAM. Okay, so that is done by class loader. Okay, when JVM boot up, what will happen, it's need to find our public static void main method to start the program. Okay, why doesn't Java just load all .class file into memory like C++ does with .exe file, memory efficiency or modularity? Because we need memory efficiency and modularity. Java loads the class lazily on demand. Okay, if our program has a PDF export feature but user never click it, the JVM never load those PDF class into memory. Process is like loading. First it will loading, then linking, then init. So in load, what will happen, class loader will grab that .class file, okay, from the disk. Like if we have .class file in disk, then it will grab from disk. If you have it from network, it will grab from network. Then it will link it, like verify it. Okay, it check the bytecode to ensure like it wasn't tampered with any hacker, by hacker, anything like it will prevent from buffer overflow. Okay, and the last state is init, like initialization. It assign values to our static variables. Okay, so what JVM did, it's pull our the class loader pull the code into JVM. Okay, this class loader pull out code into JVM. Okay, but now we have a question like where exactly does it put it? Okay, it's need a highly organized memory layout. Like we load the class, but where we have to put it? So we need some memory management, memory layout for it. So we need to some memory allocation. So like some data areas, like runtime data areas, where it is laying out the memory. Okay, so what happened in phase 3? In phase 3, as class loaded and your main method start running, the JVM organize its RAM into distinct room. Okay, so it organizes the RAM into distinct room. Okay, based on the data. Okay, so why it does that? Like, because instruction, dynamic object, or thread execution context have vastly different lifespan. Okay, so every instruction, every object, every thread execution have different lifespan. Mixing them together will cause a chaos. Okay, so that's why it use three different memory allocation: metaspace, JVM stack, and heap. Okay, so it's a metaspace like blueprint room. Okay, class loader drops a loaded class structure here, loaded class structure methods here, and static variable here. Okay, in JVM stack it's like workbench. Okay, every time a method is called, a new frame is pushed into that stack. Any method is called, the new frame will be pushed into that stack. Okay, it's hold a local variable. Okay, when method finishes, the frame is instantly destroyed. Okay, now the heap is like a warehouse, like wherever your code say like new object, so it goes in heap. Okay, it is massive and shared across all the threads. Okay, now memory, we have memory. Now the main method is on stack. Now we actually have to run the bytecode instruction. So for running it, we have execution. Okay, so JVM begins reading our bytecode line by line and translating into electrical signal for our CPU. So what happened in early Java version, only interpreted bytecode line by line. It was famously sluggish compared to C++. To fix this, Java introduced JIT compiler. Okay, just-in-time compiler. The JVM now uses a hybrid approach to get the fast startup of the interpreter, and it's almost use the raw speed of C++. So the process is like interpreter start immediately. It reads the bytecode and translate it on fly. Okay, it is slow but required zero warm-up time. It doesn't require any warm-up time. Now profiling, as an interpreter run, it keeps a counter. Whenever interpreter run, it keeps a counter, like, hey, this calculate text method has been called 10,000 times, it's hot. Okay, now JIT compiler, like C1 and C2 is a JIT compiler. What it will do, JVM takes the hot bytecode and compiles it directly into hyper optimized OS machine code. So JVM will take the hot code, it will take the hot code and compiles it and into what hyper optimized OS machine code. Okay, now the next time calculate text call, JVM skip the interpreter. JVM will not go to its interpreter and it runs, it uses a JIT compiler and it will be blazing fast machine code. Okay, now our JIT code is compiled, like JIT optimized code is running, creating millions of objects in a heap using the new keyword. Like, we are creating many objects, like millions of objects we are creating on heap using the new keyword. Okay, so eventually heap will run out of space. Okay, we have lots of data, lots of new keyword in heap, so it will run out of space. Now next is garbage selection. Okay, so what happens when heap fills up? If JVM doesn't do anything, the program will crash and it will give out of memory error. Okay, so like in C++ we use like malloc, we manually allocate memories and destroy it. So but in Java it can lead to memory leak. Okay, if we don't allocate the memory and destroy it. So humans are bad at this, like manually allocate the memory and destroy it. So we forget to free memory, that it will cause memory leak, or we uh, free it twice. So Java introduced Java collector to automate this. Okay, so it will sacrifice a little bit of performance, but it will make the application stable. So what will happen, like 95% of object in Java die immediately, like a local string used once in a loop. Then the heap is also split into two, like young generation and old generation. Okay, new object are dumped, like any new object will dump into young generation. Okay, when the young generation fills, a minor GC like garbage selection happens. It pauses or program for milliseconds, delete the dead object and move the survivors. Like if any objects are called like 10 times, 20 times, so it will survive the, we call it survivors, and we move it into old gen. Okay, now the thing is, we will go deep into garbage lesson later. Now the thing is, so what happens, GC work great, but modern servers don't have one thread executing code. Okay, they have hundreds of threads. When hundreds of threads reading, writing the heap, or and triggering GC, so how do you prevent them from crashing into each other? So we introduce Java memory model. Okay, so what will happen now, multiple threads are running simultaneously on different physical CPU code. Okay, so if they try to modify the same object, so like we have a modern CPU has L1 and L2 cache. So if thread 1 on core 1, like thread A on core 1 updates a user, like user balance to $100, and $100 might got stuck into core 1 local cache. Okay, so thread B on core 2 might look at the main RAM and see the balance as 0, but L1 already updated L1 cache, it's 200. So JMM exists to force this hardware caches to synchronize. Okay, so how it does it? It uses volatile, which is visibility, and synchronize. Sorry, spelling this. CH. So it is used for visibility, it is used for log. Okay, so if we mark any variable as volatile, JVM tell the CPU do not use your local L1 cache for this. Okay, it will read and write directly to main memory when we use the volatile. When we use the synchronize, it's ensured only one thread can enter a block of code at a time, like only one thread can be used to enter the block of code. Okay, so behind the same JVM use log escalation, starting with like biased log and only using an expensive OS log if threads are actually fighting over it. So this is how the Java code work, like Java internal mechanisms, all the things. So if I from source to CPU, what happens, Java utilize a hybrid execution model, JVAC, bytecode, JVM. Like JVAC will compile the Java class .java file into .class file, and we have the bytecode. Then we have JVM. Then we have, in modern context, we also have ahead of time, like EOT compilation, while GraalVM. Okay, so we'll go deep into that uh, again.